I've said at different points that both the Porsche Boxster and Cayman are the best cars the company makes, and now there's a new version of each, the GTS, supposedly the ultimate driver's version of each car, so I can finally find out which is best. But first, a small history lesson on where the GTS name came from. This is a Porsche 904 Carrera GTS. Around 100 of them would hit the road as part of a homologation program to get the race-ready version of the 904 on track and competing. At the time, the Porsche's 718 Racer was swiftly becoming obsolete, and Porsche needed something to further its efforts on the world circuit. While the 904 and its later evolutions went on to do quite well, the name given to the first of the so-called plastic Porsches, thanks to the material that made it, became quite the legend. The 904 itself was a smart piece of design. Not only was it penned by the incredible Butzi Porsche, the same pen behind the 911, it was also damn near finished on the first go. Thanks to enormous time constraints to get the car finished in time for homologation, the design team didn't have all that much wiggle room to refine and redesign the car. As such, it would remain pretty similar to Butzi's original draft. Later, Butzi would go on to say that the 904 was his favourite design. The 904's name, GTS, was something of a necessity. Peugeot owned the number zero number naming convention, the same thing that stopped the 911 being called the 901. So the naming bods at Porsche needed something to make the car stand out. GTS, or Gran Turismo Sport Porsches, are the cars that offer the best driving experience possible. They're not about outright power like a turbo or a Turbo S. If a Porsche's got GTS on its deck, it's going to offer you the ultimate driving experience. At least that's what Porsche says. The GTS badge can be seen on the current Cayenne and Panamera, and featured on the best version of the 997 generation 911. Now though, there's a new brace of GTSs in town. The Cayman and the Boxster have been given a spit polish and some extra everything. So what has GTSification done to the Boxster and the Cayman? Well, I know I said GTSs aren't about all-out power, but they are actually the most powerful in their respective lineups. Porsche's added 15 horses over the S models of each car, which means the Boxster now has 330 and the Cayman 340. And when you can see the S versions aren't exactly underpowered, these things are going to be quick. The power gives each car some pretty impressive numbers. They both shave 0.3 seconds off their S version's 0 to 62 times, with the Boxster managing the dash in 4.7 seconds and the Cayman doing the same in 4.6. That's with a PDK gearbox and launch control. Their top speeds, 174 and 177 miles an hour, depending on your choice of roof. But power does not a GTS make. They have to handle as well, and Porsche's added a few toys to make sure that happens. They both get as standard the Sports Chrono Pack, which adds a few fun little toys such as launch control and a lap timer, and it also has dynamic engine mounts. Now they're really smart because they stiffen when the car does anything. So under acceleration, under braking, under cornering, they make sure that the engine mass doesn't travel too far. That's smart. There's also Porsche Active Suspension Management. Now what that does is, well, it allows you to tune the car's suspension at the press of a button if you want a sharper or more comfortable ride. For the aesthetically minded, both cars come with natty black spoilers, bi-xenon lamps and all that jazz. The cars are also lower for a sportier drive, but I don't really care about any of that. I just want to find out which is best. So the Cayman GTS, first up. I will tell you what, I love the base Cayman. It's such a complete sports car. It feels so planted, so good at any given opportunity, and this just ups the game. I've been hurling it around these mountain roads and, oh, I'll tell you what, it grips and grips and grips and grips and grips. The steering is really good. It feels really nice. You do feel so connected to the car. Whoever programmed the noise did a bloody good job, because in Sport Plus, if you rest it in second, just give it a tiny little bit of foot and then lift off, you get this awesome gurgling noise as though the car's going, time for some more fun, because it just wants to be driven and thrashed and played with. Stepping out of the Cayman and getting into the Boxster, you realise just how sharp the Cayman is. And that thing is very weighty. You can feel you're hefting round something that's very, very focused, designed to get round corners as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And the Boxster's just so much lighter, the steering's lighter, the suspension's a little bit softer, so it feels more floaty, it gets a bit more mobile in the corners. It's not quite as razor sharp, it's not quite as GTS-y as the Cayman GTS, if that makes sense. But it does have a wonderful advantage. This, while not being quite as hardcore as the Cayman, has more drama. It's more accessible fun. So without the roof, you can hear it more, and the engine in this thing sounds incredible. The sound engineers did a stonking job. We know that from driving the Cayman, but because you don't have a roof and because there's the engine right behind you, then the exhaust, bang it into Sport Plus and you can hear every crack, every gurgle, every rev so much better. And if you don't have a roof and say have a tunnel, well, you can do this. The noise this thing kicks out is amazing. Porsche's very keen on saying that within each of their cars there's a racing car, tech that's been developed on the track and then filtered into each car. With this, yeah, there's lots of underbody stuff, but most immediately it really is the noise. I cannot stress how good it is. It sounds like a racing car from way back when. So really, it comes down to, what do you prefer? Do you prefer a car that feels super hardcore, very agile, very, very sporty? Or do you prefer a car that is a bit more dramatic? It's a bit more accessible, a bit more of a giggle. And that's entirely down to you. I suppose it also falls down to whether you prefer a roof or not. With the Boxster and the Cayman GTS, if you look at their name, where it came from the 904, that was a mid-engined, quite accessible sports car. Yeah, they didn't make that many of them, but Porsche says it was affordable when it was new, about 30,000 marks, but still. When you look at the other GTS models available, the Panamera, the Cayenne, those wear the badge, they have the name, and yeah, they keep the ethos, but really, the Boxster and the Cayman GTS are proper successors to it. They're mid-engined, they're proper sports cars, they're accessible, and they're bloody good fun. And I bet you any money, the people are going to go mad for these. They really are, because they're Cayman and Boxster S Plus. There's that little extra feeling that you're sitting on something just a little bit more focused, a little bit more hardcore, and a little bit more rewarding. It feels so wonderful just to bounce from corner to corner to corner in these things. And because they're so good to drive, because the steering is so good, and because the gearbox makes sure you don't do anything too stupid, you can have all the fun in the world. Having driven both cars, it's safe to say they are utterly brilliant, but you'd expect that from something bearing the GTS name. Whichever you go for, you won't be disappointed. The Boxster with its drama, the Cayman with its sharp drive. But for me, there can only be one winner. The Cayman. As a driver's car, it's going to be tough to beat.